and welcome to TSP Weekly. This is your tech startup podcast for Monday, April 6th. Took me a minute to remember the date there.
It's April.
2015. Today we are recording once again at the wonderful Velocity Garage in the Trogdor room. And I'm always excited when we record at Velocity Garage because of the Homestar Runner references. And they've put out some more material for those who are Homestar Runner fans. They've made a few extra little cartoons lately. So it's a good time to be a Homestar Runner fan and to be recording at the Velocity Garage, I guess. Let's do some introductions. My name is Darren Conley. I am a local tech entrepreneur here in Kitchener-Waterloo. With me, as always, is my wonderful co-host, fellow tech entrepreneur, Stephen Campbell. How are you today, Stephen?
I'm really excited. We have two fans. And
Yep.
they championed us to Igloo Software. They probably set up shop outside of the marketing department.
Yep.
There might have been elastic bands involved. I'm not sure what kind of torture they used.
Sure.
But we officially have our first sponsor, Igloo Software.
Excellent.
So we're delighted to not only have those two fans, but have the Igloo Software supporting us. So
yeah, apparently they just badgered their marketing department until they decided to sponsor us, which is great.
So we need to find them and give them a sticker or a pen or a T-shirt or something.
And you're going to hear our first shot at doing a audio spot for Igloo sometime in the middle of this podcast. And then later on, we're hoping to get some interviews with some Igloo employees who can talk about their platform a little bit better than we can. But that will be for future podcasts. In the meantime, let's introduce our guest for today. Joining us, we have Mr. Jim Robeson. Is it Robeson?
Robeson?
I go Robeson.
Yeah. Robeson. You'd think that wouldn't be a hard name to get right.
It's all good. It's all
You got
good.
a 50-50 chance on that one, I think.
That's right. Jim Robeson is coming to us from PiinPoint. What's your official position at PiinPoint there, Jim?
Co-founder, CEO and co-founder.
CEO and co-founder. That's about as high as you can get on the totem pole at this point.
It's
think,
pretty
right?
close, yeah.
Yep.
So you have one other co-founder, is that right? Adam?
Adam, yes.
Yep. And he's here in the building buzzing around.
He is. He's
You've got him
working
hard
away.
at work, I understand.
I do.
Yeah.
Some people actually do have to work, but I don't mean that as a slight
No,
against you
that's
there,
okay.
Jim.
This
We're
might be
very
more
happy.
work than you anticipated.
That's true, right? So tell us a little bit about what PiinPoint is, what PiinPoint does.
Sure.
I've perused the website, but I'm sure you're much better at breaking it down to the 1 minute version than I could attempt to try at it. So yeah.
So we're an online SaaS solution, and what we do is we help validate retail real estate properties for businesses.
Okay. And how do you do that?
So what we do is we can tell companies where their target market is, what real estate's available, how many cars drive by that specific site. So ultimately helping them define, should we expand into this location? Should we relocate a current site or potentially close it down?
Okay. And how do you collect all that data? Like, you can't have people standing outside on intersections counting cars, right? Like, that's
good point.
Sounds like a lot of data to manage.
It is a lot of data. So actually today, right now, we have over 3,000 different demographic variables in our platform, over 65 million points of interest. But ultimately what we do is we do buy some of this data. So in Canada, from Environics Analytics and PopStats in the US, we use a POI system called Factual.
Okay.
And then we're also building out our own proprietary information around real estate listings. So actually being able to forecast where real estate's available, but how well would you do based on cost per square foot and so on.
Okay. So you yourselves are regularly in touch with real estate organizations in order to collect some of that data yourselves?
Correct, yes.
Wow, that sounds like a lot of work.
It is. Yeah.
So you guys have been described as like the Google Analytics for retailers or businesses looking for a new location.
I think that's fair.
Or to close down a location, which you said.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you're looking at stuff like how often I go to the pet store, I understand,
So
and how much money I spend on my dog.
Yeah. What are some of
Is
those
that correct?
demographics that you guys are using, if you don't mind us asking?
It ranges from, like you said, how much is being spent on pet supplies or pet food. We can look at mortgage, how much people are spending on their mortgage, and so on.
So you're looking at family size and
Exactly.
income and all kinds of, a lot of the regular demographics that an insurance broker or anybody would buy from a list. If I'm wanting to buy zip codes with income over this much, I want homeowners, I want 2 children, I want that kind of stuff. So you're getting all this data.
You're getting all this data, and you're getting at a very granular level. So the most granular you can really get.
Right.
So it's called a dissemination area, or basically it would be what I call very much a neighborhood of like 300 plus households.
Sure. Okay. Now, walk us through like a use case. and I know you probably have several different kinds of use cases you can address with your platform, but let's say I have...
what are we opening? We want to open a coffee store?
Well, yeah, let's say I want to open a Tim Hortons.
Yeah,
nice.
This is the Canadian dream, I think, for any businessman is to open a Tim Hortons
In
because it's a money printing
Velocity
machine usually.
Garage?
But yes, and I'm trying to decide, what street corner to put my new franchise on. So I think, I'm going to use PiinPoint to make this work. What do I do as a business owner or a potential business owner to make that happen?
So as soon as you sign up, you can instantly search really any street address, location name, and so on. But based on that, we can also start to analyze your current stores and would there be any sort of cannibalization if you were to open up on this street corner. Beyond that, we can start to show you where your target market would be, where your competition is located, what are their hours of operation, customer reviews, and so on. But then based on that street corner, I can simply click on the map now and say, if I open up today, what would my sales be within the initial 12 months of ramp up, and then beyond 24 and 36 months out.
Wow.
And
so
then,
you're going way beyond sort of here's a good location because you have 300,000 people in your demographic driving by every day.
Right.
Which is where it used to kind of stop.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And now you're saying if you open here, you can earn X number of dollars in your first year.
Correct.
So you're forecasting sales based on locations and all those demographics.
We're far more than a visualization tool.
Yeah.
So we're very much a forecasting application that we believe to be, or we believe we're somewhat of innovators in this space now, looking at how you build out these forecasting models, what data you do use, and really going, I'll say, looking at it 5 years from now and where do we need to be.
Now, was that a pivot, or did you guys come in with that from the very beginning, that idea that we're going to be looking at forecasting?
Yep, came in from the very beginning.
Neat.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, getting back once again to the user experience side, so if I'm the business owner, like I said, opening a new Tim Hortons, when I log into your platform and I just kind of picking random spots and kind of comparing information, or can I enter, say, the information about my particular business? So say I can type in, I have a coffee shop, I have, this much square footage, et cetera, and kind of get a report of here are some possibilities for places for real estate, or is it checking existing real estate locations to see where there's vacancies? Like I'm just wondering from the user experience level, how am I interacting with the platform, and what am I required to put in, and what is it spitting out?
So you can log into PiinPoint and have everything at your disposal in terms of all the data would be there. But recognizing that whether you're a mom and pop shop or you're a Fortune 500 company, you may have data that you've collected. So we do have a function where you can upload what we call custom layers and show that information. So to your point, if we already have stores that are, a variety of different square footage, they're owned by different franchisees, that is all customizable, and you can upload that or integrate it into PiinPoint.
Okay.
So beyond that data that we show you visually, we then also provide a comprehensive report that would then justify whether or not you should open, relocate, or close a specific site.
Okay.
That would take in everything we've just searched into a 4 to 5 page report.
Okay. Cool. And how much hand holding do you offer through that process? So can I call up a representative of PiinPoint and say I'm not sure where to start, or is it like a wizard that I can use a tool to walk through it, or how does that work? So
there's a variety of different options. So it's very much an out of the box solution, but we pride ourselves on, I think, being a startup. The support that you get within PiinPoint is as soon as you click the support button, we are there to help you if need be. We've built out an entire help center. So if you want the video tutorial on how should I use this feature, or how can it be used and what's the value, that's also included too. But we pride ourselves on being extremely easy to use. And even going back to kind of why we first built this was traditionally the products that exist today are clunky. They're built in the 90s, fragmented data and so on. How can we now provide a product for the masses? So it doesn't matter if you have a technical background, you still get that level of sophistication and forecasting. But if you're a real estate professional on the ground or a marketer, you can now use PiinPoint with ease and not worry about, well, how do I do this? It's very much a click and go.
And are you marketing their product specifically to people in the real estate industry, or are you marketing to people who are running businesses who will then go to the real estate folks and say, PiinPoint told me I need to buy here, so can you get me a place? How does that work?
Our product's being used right now by retailers, landlords such as RioCan, and brokerages such as Cushman & Wakefield.
Okay. Okay. So
You have about
the whole
10
range?
customers online right now? Or
Over 20, 20
20.
companies. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, let's take things back a little bit to the genesis of PiinPoint.
Sure.
Back to your Master's of Economics and Innovation degree.
The MBET, yeah.
Yes.
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
So how did this all start? First of all, where did the inspiration come for the idea for PiinPoint?
So I come from a family business, and obviously,
What business is that?
so we have a deli
Okay.
just outside of Kingston.
Cool.
And I've grown up in that business, and ultimately, when we look to, I'll say, expand, at that point in time, is very much the intuition, and we never really considered anything outside of our community because we'd lived there for 20 plus years.
Your dad has always been looking at the corner of Smith
Yeah.
and Wesson
Yeah.
or whatever,
Yeah.
whatever
Smith
corner.
and
it is.
Wesson?
That's the first thing that came to mind. I'm not even a gun guy. I don't know.
Got weapons on the mind. That's
Yeah,
right.
and he always just knows that that's a good spot. He's always been looking at it, right? But he doesn't have any analytics to tell him
Exactly.
when
And
you
even
know
getting
your town.
Yeah.
And even getting a sense now, and this is really one of the components that I believe is unique to PiinPoint, is getting a sense of when competition is going to be building out. Not today necessarily, but into the future as well. So where are these new developments taking place? So with our business, we ultimately made a decision to stay in the community that we're in, or we lived in. And not to say it was a bad decision, but we never really considered anything else.
It might have limited you.
But exactly. And so if we would have considered something else, I believe we may have been in a different position. But ultimately, what the key takeaway was location does impact a lot, and more than just sales.
I think Schneider's has a location up. It's available now.
Okay.
Oh
locally.
dear! Apologies to any former employees listening. It's interesting because I grew up in Hamilton, and it's funny when you've lived for long enough in any city, and I can tell you in Hamilton right now which particular street corners have had like 8 or 9 businesses cycle through that location in like 15 years, and which other corners have had the same business established for like 25 years or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny, like you always wonder how come so many restaurants open at that location and then shut down like 6 months later, right?
So true.
And I would guess PiinPoint would be able to lay out some of those reasons,
or even understand.
Yeah.
We were speaking with one client, maybe a number of months ago now, but just looking at why all of their Toronto locations are doing so much better than in Hamilton, Kitchener, and so on.
Right.
And so starting to analyze those trends to say, well, why are these stores overperforming, these underperforming, and what's impacting that? So,
Do you ever worry that this is not a renewable resource and that, like, if you guys take off and PiinPoint is the tool that savvy investors will start squatting, and like if I can go on to PiinPoint, it tells me here's the best locations in Kitchener-Waterloo. Well, I don't have to have a coffee shop to grab one of those and wait for the coffee shop to come along, right? So, like, once all the good, juicy real estate is taken, then you're down to the B and the C level celebrity stuff.
But maybe the very act of buying up and holding those locations changes what the demographics are.
Ooh, I like that.
well,
I wonder.
So is that a worry, or do you guys consider that it isn't a renewable resource? You're thinking that there is tons of opportunity?
I truly believe there's tons of opportunity. I even look at Google. That's just opening up here.
Yeah.
In terms of that location specifically in the light rail transit, like the downtown is changing dramatically.
Sure.
But
Can you tell us if that's a good location for Google?
I haven't done the analytics or I haven't analyzed that site.
Okay.
But
Yeah, where's a good place to open a podcast?
That would be great if you could sit down with Google and say, listen, I know you guys think this is a great spot,
But
but
hey,
if you move across the street, you're going to
6
get so
more
much
inches.
more search analytics. No, just kidding. That's funny. Okay, so going back to the early story.
Yeah.
So you talked about where that idea came from. At what point did you say, okay, now I'm going to build something like this?
so you collide with Adam Sanders, who is a geologist trying to find oil rigs. Is that right?
yeah, so I was at the University of Waterloo. I was working in Toronto for a few years and just said, you know what, this 9 to 5 I almost want to be my own boss. Or I've grown up in a family business. So whether it's dad, my grandfather, great grandfather, we've always had our own business.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I went into the MBET program, or Masters of Business, Entrepreneurship and Technology. Adam at that point in time was doing his undergrad in Geographic Information Systems, or GIS.
Yeah.
And when we connected, he's grown up on, I'll say, the alternative solutions that exist today. And again, going back to this whole clunky, you have to be an atom to really use it.
Yeah.
We both just said we believe there's a huge opportunity here. And so based on that, this would have been July of 2013. We said, let's run with it. And so from that point to, I guess, September, we had just built out an MVP. I contacted the Canadian Franchise Association and just said, we're looking for feedback and would love to speak to your membership. They helped us out, and we did some validation and recognized that, this is a problem. There was a need. And from there, within a few months, we had our first customer. But even to think about it and our journey, we were working out of EV3, out of the University of Waterloo, the environmental, a breakout room all summer. Came down here to Communitech, and that's when I contacted Mike Kirkup and just said, Mike, I'd love to get your thoughts.
Mike Kirkup, of course, being the head of Velocity.
Correct, yes.
Who we did interview in a previous episode.
Yes.
And I could tell you what episode it was if I had it in front of me, but I don't. But anyway, listeners can look that up if they're interested. Yes, so you talked to Mike? Yeah.
Talked to
Hi, Mike.
Yeah. And from there, that's when things started to, I'll say, move forward.
Okay.
And,
Wonderful. And at that point, was it still just you and Adam?
At that point, it was Adam and I, and then we had 4 volunteers from the GIS department, students, who were helping us.
How did you get them to volunteer?
So the one thing I learned in the MBET program was the ability to, I'll say, hustle, if you want to call it that.
Sure.
And so I would contact as many people as I believed were a good fit for PiinPoint, and just whether it's feedback or see if they'd be interested. And ultimately, I met a professor who said, I think what you have is a great idea, and here are some really talented students that may be interested in what you're doing. And sure enough, they were. And
they just, because they thought it was a cool idea, or were they getting class credit? Or
No, they thought it was a cool idea.
So you just filled the sales funnel with enough people that eventually you had a couple meetings, and then you had a couple sales that people wanted to join the team for free.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's, I think that's a sign of good leadership. If you can encourage people to come and work for you for zero pay just because it's a really cool idea. I've got to work on my skills in that area too. A little bit more, right? We are looking for unpaid interns for the podcast, but anyway, very cool. And so how long have you been in the Velocity program then?
So we started in October of 2013.
Okay.
We left in January of 2014 for about 6 months to go to Y Combinator.
Oh, right.
And then we came back last June.
Okay. So can you tell us a little bit about the Y Combinator thing? Like I myself have I think I watched some kind of documentary.
It's called the startup comedy.
The startup community?
Silicon Valley. Sorry, right?
No. Okay, yes.
Because you guys were out there.
There is that
you
show.
guys rented a house in San Jose, and you guys had guys sitting there coding all day while you're running around Silicon Valley panhandling, right? Looking for investment, basically.
Well, before we get into
that's
that
awesome.
I'm just...
So they lived it. They lived that whole...
But I honestly did watch a documentary about people getting into Y Combinator, and it's pretty intense. Like, it's...
It is.
The interview process and the competition level, and they're like the pinnacle of, incubator programs, right, for tech startups. So what was that, first of all, what was that process like for you guys, the application process and just getting into the program?
So to be fully honest, I didn't know about Y Combinator.
Okay.
So it was actually one of the EIRs, or executives in residence at Communitech, who said, Jim and Adam, you guys have done a lot in the past 3 months. And based on where you want to go and take this business, have you thought about Y Combinator? And I just kind of shrugged my shoulders and said, no. And and he said, well, looked into it. The long and short is, once we got into the garage, I think this is one of the really strong points about Velocity is there's really this sense of community.
Sure.
And so we had a variety of different applicants or individuals who had gone through the process, review our application, so multiple drafts or iterations.
And I know there have been a few startups that are still in town that are graduates of Y Combinator as well. I think Vidyard has been through Y Combinator.
Vidyard, Thelmic Labs, Bufferbox,
right.
Pebble.
Yeah.
You guys were the 7th to go from Velocity to Y Combinator.
Okay, cool.
You know all the stats, man. That's why we keep you around.
So congratulations. 7 is a lucky number.
Yeah. So it's So the long and short is I spoke with Stephen Lake actually before from Thelmic. Mike McCauley from Bufferbox. And they said they'd help as well. And awesome. From there we applied. I'll never forget the night that I got the email. It was about, I think, 2 a.m. or so.
Yeah. And California time?
No, Eastern Standard Time. But it was just one of the happiest moments. You just feel like I did it. Or
this is the email saying you got in, or the
email saying you got the interview.
We will talk to you.
Yeah. We'll talk to you. So So at that point, again, because when you think of not only the startups that have come from Waterloo, but also you think of the Airbnbs, the Dropbox, there's a sense of, okay, we may have something.
That's some serious validation when they're willing to hang out with you for a bit.
So from there, as maybe 2 or 3 weeks afterwards, we flew down to Mountain View. We arrived on a Sunday, and that Sunday we went to YC because we thought, you know what, let's just get a sense of where it is, how long it takes to walk there, and so on. And we met a few alumni, and let's just say they ripped us apart, and they just said, "There's no hope in hell of you guys getting in." So
really,
And so you had a reality check.
Very much so.
What was their reasoning that you guys would have no chance?
Being concise about your pitch and what you're doing. I think ultimately, if there was one thing to take away, it's selling yourself as the next big thing. And we were not doing that.
You just were like, we're a good idea, but we're not like...
We're humble guys. Like, we're not here to...
We're not here to try to change the world.
Well, we're here to change the world, but we may not seem like that. We went back to our Airbnb and read PG's essays. And then from there, got up the next day, went to the interview, and it was just rapid fire. So, and truthfully, I also didn't really know who was in the room. So aside from Sam Altman and 4 other gentlemen who I obviously now know, but it was rapid fire. So Adam was answering questions at one point. I was answering questions. Sam Altman said, "Let's see a demo." So we opened up our laptop, and then we walked out. And
wow!
How'd you feel? Did you think you did well, or did you think, wow, what just happened?
Again, it was more of, you know what, we did the best that we could. And ultimately, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be, and we'll find out. So
you left it all on the ice.
We did.
How long was that interview process?
10 minutes.
10 minutes.
10 minutes.
So you got a lot you've got to show them in 10 minutes, huh?
Exactly. I think that's part of the piece around being concise. So every answer was 15 seconds, ultimately.
Wow.
We walked back, and then I knew around 6 o'clock we'd be getting the phone call. And if we didn't get the phone call around that time, we didn't get it. And then I looked up the area code to make sure if I got that phone call.
Make sure you answered.
Yeah. And sure enough, at 6:05, the phone rang, and the gentleman, I'm not too sure even today if it was PG or someone else, but just said, "We'd like to accept you into Y Combinator," and went through the details. And then he said, "Do you have any questions?" I said, "No." And and that was it.
Wow. And so the next 6 months were spent out in Mountain View, pretty much?
We flew out in January. And probably some of the most productive months really ever.
So coming into those 6 months and going out of those 6 months, how much changed in that span of time? Like how far did you evolve while you were out there?
So we went from, first of all, looking at selling this to, I'll say, your mom and pop shops, to recognizing that this problem stemmed even within the Fortune 500 companies, and they didn't have it figured out yet.
Right.
So within between January and March of demo day, we had lined up a number of Fortune 500 companies to pilot with our product. And then from there, a variety of mid-market companies.
Okay.
So we went from having really a couple of customers to that had maybe 50 stores in total to over close to 10,000 store locations.
Wow.
So when you talk about like those were some of your most productive days, you're not talking about sitting down and coding and working, developing your MVP to a further stage. You're really talking about
maybe you are,
some of those networking opportunities and some of the huge Fortune 500 companies that are now looking at your product and offering you feedback and some of those sort of blossoming opportunities, or is it a mixture of both?
Both.
What did the kind of day-to-day look like there? Were you in front of a computer, or were you running around to meetings, or what does that look like?
I would say 80% on the phone or emails, 20% running around. So the days would look like I would get up around 5:30, 6 a.m., and I would get on the phone and call the East Coast, and I'd work until about 5 p.m. Pacific time, just doing these cold calls.
Wow!
And what was your
Did you have
spiel?
A spiel? Yeah.
My spiel.
What are you trying to get? An appointment, a sale, a look at your product, or what was the
goal?
What was the ask?
The goal was primarily, if anything, feedback.
Okay.
Feedback on our product, feedback on what they're using, really understanding their needs.
So just discovery calls, really, then.
But more discovery calls with the intent that the goal of that phone call was to get to the next level, or for them to say, we've just signed with somebody else, please don't bother me.
Right. Did you find a lot of people were working with other groups, or?
We did.
Yeah.
We did.
It's a good way to get to know your competition, I guess.
It is. It really is. And beyond that, it was the dev team, similar to me, up at 7, 8 o'clock, and we'd work until 10, 11.
And how many people were on the dev team at that point?
There were 3.
Okay.
So there were 4 of us in total.
Yeah. You were the only one who wasn't writing code?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah.
Wow. Crazy.
So any, I have to ask, any good parties?
Any good part?
Any good, anybody make it big, spending millions?
He's too busy trying to find customers.
Yeah. I'll say.
Like, what was the craziest thing that you saw out there as far as startup money or big events or bigness?
Truthfully,
we didn't. Nothing?
Yeah.
Well, it's not that there was nothing. I'm sure there was plenty, but we really didn't get a chance to see a whole lot. It was very much heads down. There's no question. We went out and with fellow batchmates.
Sure.
And those were some great nights and very memorable.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it was heads down. We have 3 months to make the most of this, and let's take a break when we can. But ultimately, push forward and walk away on top.
Good for you guys.
Yeah.
Now, I want to get into the kind of post-Y Combinator part of the story here.
Yeah.
But before we do that, I think maybe we should take a break and do our sponsor spot.
I've been dying to talk about Igloo.
So, I don't know how we want to do this, Stephen. Do we want to just go full out like radio announcer cheesy? Or
Sure, absolutely.
All right. Do you want me to start?
I think you should.
Okay, here we go. So anyone that's worked in a corporate environment knows how painful intranets can be.
Very painful.
The content is stale, the interface is ugly, and you can't access on your phone.
Igloo is an intranet you'll actually like because it's designed for you, the user.
It gives you flexibility to get your work done how you want, where you want, and on whatever device you want. Igloo is a product meant for 2015, not 1997.
And it's built with easy-to-use apps like file sharing, calendars, social news feeds, and task management.
Everything can be social, with comments and like buttons, and anyone can add content, based on their permissions, of course, with drag-and-drop widgets and a WYSIWYG editor. I've always wanted to say WYSIWYG.
And you just did in spades. Igloo also makes use of responsive web design, so it looks fantastic on all your devices.
Excellent. So please sign up at igloosoftware.com/TSP for a free trial and get started today.
I like the /TSP. Big Guns N' Roses fan.
Oh, yeah? There you go.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's exactly what they were thinking when they put in that text. Great.
I think that went well.
Yeah, great.
How did that feel for you?
I think if everybody who's listening to this podcast goes to that web address right now, which once again is igloosoftware.com/TSP, then I think our sponsor will be very happy with us.
I agree.
Excellent. Well, let's get back into the story here.
Now a word from not our sponsor.
Yes,
Back to Jim.
Back to Jim, our guest. So you've done your stint at Y Combinator. You come to the end of your time there. Now, I think a lot of startups, when they think of Y Combinator, they imagine that graduation point is the point where you're all of a sudden be getting your multi-million-dollar offers, buyout offers from other people, and retire to a life of luxury and maybe start up another startup. But here you are, you're still going at it back in Kitchener-Waterloo. So what does that post Y Combinator phase look like? What happens there?
So post YC, obviously right after demo day, everybody is just, I'll say the top of mind is investors. And how do we plan out the next 12, 24, 36 months.
So is it like a chum fest where there's blood in the water and all the investors are there and everybody's just had their pitch and money is a flying? You try and get your net out?
Yeah, pretty close. It's I won't say that. If anything, the one thing I took away from the Valley versus here was that we spoke with VCs and angels over coffee, and in terms of their perspective, it's more about believing in the idea and the team, and they would write a check then and there.
Right.
Where here it's a little more formal, where it's a few weeks, if not months, worth of due diligence, and fair enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, really, right after demo day, it was a variety of different meetings with VCs and angels, both in Canada, the US, Europe, and ultimately we made the decision that Waterloo is where we want to really build out the company.
Right.
I think ultimately what Waterloo offers is not only the talent here, but also the ability, I'll say the cost of living component, where you can build out your startup over a number of years where you have enough money to do that. Whereas in the Valley, you're competing for talent, you're competing for loyalty.
And you almost got to go big right out the gate, otherwise you're just not going to be able to sustain it, right?
Yeah, you're right.
So did that choice to base it out of Waterloo come from, how can I put this? Did you see what the investment interest was and then decide you're going to build it out of Waterloo? Or did you decide we want to be in Waterloo and then see if there are any investors who are willing to come on with you on that ride?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
because you guys came out of YC with some money. Is
yes,
that correct?
We did. We did.
Yeah, the press was talking about 250 that you had. You were looking for about $1 million.
Yep. Exactly.
Exactly. So you're back here in town now, and you guys are now just joined the new Communitech Rev cohort.
Yes, that's
we
right.
did.
So you have a new home.
Stephen and I were at the launch last week, which was nice. They gave
it was really cool.
They gave us some nice food. Did a little fashion show with the startups. Can I just ask, now having not had access to the behind the scenes planning, did they tell you guys we're going to do it walk down the runway at a fashion show kind of style?
They didn't. It was just when we got there, we saw the stage and we thought, you know what, let's have fun with it.
Yeah, okay.
And
cool.
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah.
That was put on by our friend Sam Legg, who's been on the show before, and also Steve McCartney, VP of Communitech Startup Services.
And Sam has a partner in crime as well, Christina,
Wood.
whose last name I can't remember. Wood?
Yes.
Who we may have on a future episode.
That'd be
So they did a great job, I thought.
Cool. Yeah, it was very fun event.
Yeah, so you're part of Rev, and what is the plan for what Rev is going to do for PiinPoint then?
Accelerate sales ultimately. So we have milestones that we want to hit that are obviously we believe to be realistic but yet aggressive, and we believe the support that Rev can provide can ideally help us achieve, if not overachieve, those milestones.
And what kind of support is it providing?
Support from the sense of mentorship from a variety of influencers within the community and even outside of the community, looking at I'll say software support. So whether it's something like Salesforce or a variety of other providers, to space, and
like finding office space. That sounds like somewhere that you can contribute.
Space more so in the Rev space specifically. So for those startups in Toronto who want to relocate to here, they have space that they're willing to offer. But a variety of different services, and ultimately we felt that the additional support was something very advantageous for PiinPoint with where we're at, and would ideally only help us grow even further.
I really like the idea that you're focused on not investment, but on sales.
I agree.
And accelerating that sort of focus.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times it's the idea and the team, and then who wants to give us money instead of we're just going to do it. We're going to do it on our own.
Exactly.
So that's really kind of cool that we now have 10 new companies that are in the cohort with you.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have Advolve. I'm not even sure I'm saying it right. Media on coming up in the next month.
Yeah.
They're another part of your cohort. So, we're looking forward to talking to some of those guys as well.
Beautiful.
Now,
focusing on sales.
You mentioned, geez, I got to recapture my train of thought here. Acceleration of sales as part of what you're doing. What do you find are the greatest challenges to your own sales process as you're going out there looking for customers? You obviously have a lot of experience doing the cold calling thing.
Yeah.
And you've been doing a lot of it, I'm assuming, back in Canada since you've relocated here. So what do you find are the barriers you need to overcome to accelerate the sales process in your mind?
Ultimately scaling.
Yeah.
So where we are today, looking at the different methods in which we can scale our sales cycle. And I think timing. Timing in the sense of the sales cycle, I think for any enterprise-based product, it's going to be 3, 4, 5 plus months.
Yeah.
But how do we, I think like everybody's looking to do, how do you decrease that to say 4 to 8 weeks?
Right.
While you're still doing 6-figure, 7-figure deals.
Sure.
Let me know.
Yeah, that's right. You're obviously dealing a lot with the concept of location. Do you find like the location factor is a major, I don't know if I want to say challenge necessarily, but the fact that you have a team that's only located here in this one spot, if you had somebody call you up from, Georgia and say, we want, to find good rental space for our business in Atlanta somewhere, does the fact that you're way over here up in Canada affect your ability to bring on that customer and deliver to that customer, or is that not an issue?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. Our platform serves all of North America, so whether it's an urban area, rural, it really doesn't matter where we are. And ultimately, at the end of the day, if it means... And quite frankly, this does happen, getting on a plane and going down and meeting that customer to support their organization. That's important to us, and we do that in a heartbeat. So,
Atlanta's fun.
It is. I was there for a client
Hot
meeting.
Atlanta.
I just picked that out of the thin air. Okay, fair enough. I'm just thinking like when you're dealing with those kind of location decisions, I know I'm putting up big money.
No, it's
service,
true.
Right? Yeah.
Face-to-face is important. I think what we're seeing more and more of is our product very much speaks for itself, and those, I'll say, organizations and employees using the product are now starting to refer us to their friends and their, I'll say, network.
Right.
So that the credibility, the awareness is certainly increasing day over day.
Sure.
You're certainly building up a nice resume with the Velocity Garage, then the Y Combinator, and now Communitech Rev, and now TSP Weekly.
Yeah.
You're really shooting up.
On your website, you listed a few other, people have given you some press and stuff too, right?
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, it sounds like the buzz is building, which is great. Is there anything else you kind of see on the horizon for PiinPoint as far as future developments or directions that you guys are moving in?
First Starbucks on Mars, or
hey, you never know. No, I think if anything, right now there's like the product roadmap is somewhat endless. We have a vision in terms of where we want to be, and ultimately this business we're building ideally, it will outlive us. It is very much our mentality.
Right.
But I'd say over the course of the next year or so, really our focus is on real estate. So looking at the forecasting of properties, looking at the municipal insights. So outside of like this property is available, well, what's the zoning restriction? What are the bylaws? What do you need to know about future development in the area that's ideally going to provide you with a greater ROI?
Right.
And then beyond that, the question that often comes up is who's going to fill, now it's kind of the future shop space or the target space, but looking at what I call tenant matchmaking. So helping out the landlords or the brokerages say, here's the ideal tenant that you should be focusing on.
For this demographic.
For this space here. So Future Shop may have been here, but maybe a Bed Bath & Beyond is suitable
fit.
or
Yeah.
better. Exactly.
Can we bring the byway back?
Yeah.
They were cool.
From back in the day. And do you have now, or are you looking to bring on somebody who's like a hardcore real estate expert as part of your team, or is that kind of...
We are always hiring. I think right now our primary focus would be around the dev team and building that out a bit more.
Sure.
So obviously the full stack developers, the digital marketers, the statisticians.
Yeah.
I think in terms of advisory support, those experts, of course, if they want to be a part of an exciting startup that very much has a mentality of how do we innovate this space, like we do want to hear from them, and ideally bring, I'll say, the startup with someone who's been doing it for 20 plus years or so.
Sure. Okay, sounds good. Well, if there's anyone out there listening that has some of this expertise, you can always contact us through TSP Weekly, and we'll pass you along to, we can always give you contact information for these guys, too.
They're not hard to find.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And they're making it easier to find, for everybody else to find what they're looking for, too, right?
I thought we were going back to Igloo Software for a second. You slipped
did
into that
you?
voice.
Sorry.
Yeah.
The voice comes
The
out
Igloo
every
Software
now and
voice.
then by mistake. Yeah, that's true. Well, listen, I think now's a good time for us to start wrapping this up. But before we do so, we got to do the lightning round. And I promise you, it'll be nothing as scary as the lightning round of questions to get into Y Combinator.
Fair enough.
I think. There might be a few scary ones in here, but anyway, we'll
Okay.
throw these at you and see how you do.
Okay.
All right, here we go. So question number 1, give one piece of advice for new startups in 5 words or less.
Growth will solve everything.
Growth will solve everything. All right, yeah, 4 words. Perfect.
Everything is like 2 syllables.
No, it still
It's just
works.
one word, yeah.
Perfect. Number 2, how many hours do you work per day now?
Now,
Yeah.
13.
Really? All right,
Slacker.
sounds like a startup. Who is your ideal investor?
Ideal investor. That's a good question. BVP.
Okay.
who is BBP?
Sorry. If I was to say an ideal investor, I have a lot of respect for Jeff Epstein
Okay.
from Bessemer.
Okay.
They've recently invested in Vidyard.
Okay.
But I would say someone like that, or a Real Ventures, a Navitas Capital, those who are entrepreneur friendly.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So if any of you are listening, especially you, Jeff, here's your chance.
Call us.
Okay, question number 4. What is one startup skill that you need to get better at, in your opinion?
Marketing.
Okay. All right. And what is one startup skill that you feel that you've mastered?
Hustling.
They're very different.
That broad overall term, hustling. Okay, perfect. Number 6, Mac, PC, or Linux?
Mac.
All right, that was fast. Number 7, Android or iPhone?
Android.
Really?
Yeah.
Mac and Android.
Yeah, I
Interesting combination. All right. Number 8, fill in the blank. I am secretly terrified of...
Oh my God. Tic Tacs.
And we have some right in front of you. This must be horrible for
It's
you.
a 200 pack too.
Number 9, fill in the blank. If I could have any drink in my hand right now, it would be...
Protein Vitality Shake from Pure.
Okay.
Nice.
Very healthy. Excellent. And number 10, first purchase you're going to make after you're bought out by Google.
First purchase. Tesla.
Model S?
Yes.
You know, that would be very high on my list too, if it were me. The bonus question is toilet paper, fold or scrunch?
Scrunch.
Scrunch?
Nice.
Yeah.
Interesting. Steve's a scruncher
Thanks for taking
too.
a second to think about it. Not
Yeah.
just, you know,
We
'cause
want it
it's-
to be well thought out.
Yeah, it's got to be a weighty answer.
Very important for us. Excellent. Listen, Jim, where can we find PiinPoint online? Do you guys have Twitter, Facebook, your website, all that stuff? Yeah.
Twitter at PiinPoint. Website PiinPoint.com.
Now it's PiinPoint with 2 I's, right?
Correct.
2 I's in the pen?
PiinPoint.com.
Okay.
Same with at PiinPoint, PiinPoint. We have LinkedIn group. You can find us on Angel List. Really, Instagram. You name the social media, we're there.
Excellent. All right, and we can put some links to those locations when we post the podcast so people
Beautiful.
can find you.
Yeah, we're going to be
Perfect.
starting a Minecraft server for
For
PiinPoint too.
Yeah, there you go. Might as well cover all the bases. So to speak,
Absolutely.
right? Perfect. Well, that's all for today, guys. Let's give a special thanks to Mr. Jim Robeson from PiinPoint for coming on the show.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, man.
Thanks very
Awesome.
much.
And thank you to the Velocity Garage once again for letting us record here today. And thanks to you, our listeners, for joining us on another episode of TSP Weekly. Please feel free to send us your comments, your questions, your criticism, your feedback. Our email address is feedback@tspweekly.com, or you can always just send us a message on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @TSP Weekly. So for myself, Darren Conley, from my co-host Stephen Campbell, and from our guest Jim Robeson from PiinPoint, thank you so much for joining us here today, and we'll see you all again next week.